everyone. It's 11 o'clock and welcome to the BPRA session, or in other words, the Best Practice-Based Research Award session. My name is Martijn Willemsen. I'm the chair of the EAPRIL and I have the honor to chair this session. Unfortunately, I cannot use my laptop at this moment, so I'm going to try to chair this session from another device, but that's the miracle of an online conference. The award session, for all of you who are not familiar with it, we have since many years the tradition that community members can propose their practice-based research project to submit it and to be assessed as a best practice-based research award of the EAPRIL conference. And if you are interested in all the criteria, you can find them in the whole procedure at our website. This year, we had 5 proposals and an independent committee consisting of Mario Duller, Ning Ding, Anthony Thorpe, and Maritza Gerritsen assessed these proposals and identified 3 nominees to present at the EAPRIL conference. Unfortunately, 2 of those 3 proposals have been withdrawn for this conference due to several reasons. In communication together with the independent committee, the executive board decided that we wanted to continue with this award session because due to COVID, also last year, this Best Practice-Based Research Award was cancelled. So we have the honor today to have a long time to listen to the presentation of the one who are still presenting, and that is the team of Anouk Baks. And Anouk, I really would like to give you the floor to present your best or your practice-based research project.
Thank you so much for your introduction, Martijn. And I would like to thank the organization, the jury, and the board for the opportunity to share our good practice. I am Anouk Baks, and I'm honored to present our educational lab to you, also on behalf of all my colleagues. I'm going to start sharing the presentation. Make it a little bigger. Yes, it's on. Thank you so much. Well, let's go. We all come from the Netherlands. And as you can see, this is a small country in the west of Europe. And maybe you already know us from the water and ice skating in winters. We do the wooden shoes, our excellent cheeses, stroopwafels, the cookies below, the fields of beautiful tulips, and of course the bikes. Every man, woman and child in the Netherlands has a bike. We all cycle over there. Well, in the Netherlands, we also have gifted learners. And it's not always easy to offer every child tailored education or inclusive education. And this seems especially hard for gifted learners. In the Netherlands, most teachers are very skilled in addressing special needs for students, especially those who might get behind. But it seems a bit harder to support the gifted students in what they need for optimal development. Well, unfortunately, this isn't new. But what is new is the educational field lab we started 6 years ago. And I would love to tell you a bit more about it and show you how we started bridging the gap between theory and practice. In order to do so, I prepared 3 parts, one about the educational field lab, one about the practical application of our research, and I would like to have a part interaction with you. So I hope you have some nice questions or discussion points for us. And in order to do so, I would like to ask you to use your tablet, phone, or your laptop to go to the URL you see below there, because we prepared a Padlet. And in that Padlet, you can click on the small cross you see over there, and you can ask a question to a scientist or to a teacher educator, a teacher, someone in our lab. We are all watching now, and in the last part, we will come back to the questions you ask in the Padlet. I have the URL in the next few slides, so don't worry. It's coming up. There it is again. Well, over there you saw all the organizations participating, because of course we are a very large team in order to do what we do. POINT, that's the name of our educational research lab. And POINT is a Dutch abbreviation, and it stands for Adequate or Tailored Education for Each New Talent. And with talent, we mean cognitive talent. Well, 6 years ago, we started our research field lab POINT. The POINT lab is a close collaboration between 3 types of organizations: primary schools, research universities, and teacher education institutes. And in our lab, teachers, scientists, and master students work together on research regarding gifted education. Well, amongst others, this field lab can be seen as a form of teacher education. Field labs like ours enable professional learning for teachers, and it embodies continuous professionalization, striving for lifelong learning. Well, we want teachers to embrace learning, and not only for their gifted students, but also for themselves. And participating in a lab like ours can help enable teachers to improve their practice for gifted education. But this lab, a lab like ours, is not only with the team of gifted education. You can use this concept or this model for every team or every educational part you would like to. And here you see some of us. And we found one another in the passion and interest we share for gifted learners. We all want to improve education for the gifted ones, and working together gives us the best chance and opportunity to do so. And here you see Elise. Elise is present at this moment, and she recorded this film for us, and I hope you can see and hear her.
Hello everyone, my name is Elise Samse. 3 years ago, I had a unique opportunity to write my master thesis in the educational research lab POINT. I think the great thing about POINT is that it bridges the gap between science and practice. The collaboration between the various disciplines make POINT an inspiring place to conduct research. And this is one of the reasons why I still work at POINT, but now as a junior researcher. In this short video, I would like to tell you more about POINT. Well, POINT is an educational research lab related to giftedness and cognitive talent. Our main goal is to improve education for all children, including the gifted. In POINT, teachers, teacher educators, researchers, and students work together on educational research. A problem or question from educational practice is the starting point for all our studies. The results and insights from our studies are always shared with educational practice, regionally in our schools, but also nationally and internationally. For example, we write practical articles, scientific articles, and we make short informative video clips. Our wonderful collaboration between science and practice has a positive impact in both fields. For example, researchers learn to work in a practice-sensitive way, and teachers learn research skills and develop an investigative approach. And last but not least, the children also benefit from POINT because their teachers apply the insights from our studies in their classrooms. I hope this video has given you an impression of our educational research lab, and I wish you a good conference. Goodbye.
Well, thank you, Elise. In our lab, we try to involve young potentials like Elise next to more senior colleagues. And you will see some of our colleagues coming up soon. Well, the main aim of our research lab is to realize adequate education for all students, including the gifted ones. And we do that by doing research together and by sharing research findings from international studies. We do this by shaping a sustainable professional learning community in which teachers, teacher educators, and researchers work together on themes, in our example, giftedness, but it also could be other themes. We work on knowledge development and especially also knowledge sharing by teachers, teacher educators, and researchers. And we work on the development of a research-oriented attitude and capacity among the participating point teachers. And also we aim at the development of a more practice-sensitive attitude of the scientists participating in the point lab. And I think the time was just right for a lab like ours, because from studies, we knew that gifted Dutch pupils do not always achieve excellent results that they could, and that they do not perform up to their full potential. Also, we saw that Dutch teachers had more attention for special needs pupils instead of the gifted pupils, and that teachers had difficulties in teaching gifted students. Additionally, compared to the students of surrounding countries, Dutch students seem to have quite some motivational problems in primary schools, but especially in secondary schools. And this also goes for the gifted students. And new insights were needed in order for school leaders and teacher teams to be able to make evidence-informed decisions for their practice. And a close collaboration between scientists, teachers, and teacher educators could make this happen. Well, back at the start, the Dutch government funded 3 educational labs in the Netherlands for 3 years. Our lab was the only one with the topic of gifted education. And you might understand that many school teams, researchers, and teacher educators were interested in joining our lab. And also because all hours invested were paid for. And we started with 11 schools, 3 research universities, and a teacher training institute. But after these 3 years, there was no funding anymore. However, the outcomes and professionalization of all participants were so positive that we continued the labs. The school teams now pay for the coordination of the educational field lab, and all participants invest their time in the lab themselves. So now we have 3 labs with 34 schools, 3 research universities, and the largest teacher training institute of the Netherlands. And every participating school receives this framed picture. Well, it's actually quite big. It's almost like a painting, and they put it up the wall in their schools. And then everyone can see that they are part of the field lab and what we do in a field lab. And then they are ready to go. Well, what does that mean, they are ready to go? More in concrete, in our field labs, all participants join for a cycle for 3 years. And we have 8 meetings each year, and all meetings are an entire day. In these meetings, we work on team building or community building to become a real group with a joint mission. And teachers share good practices from what works in their classes and why they are so positive about that specific practice. And we see that in the next weeks, the other teachers also try out these practices in their classrooms. And we also have time for exchange, for example, on complex cases within the schools. Each meeting, we have an inspiring presentation by an expert from science or from practice. And we talk about these presentations together, and also like to ask triggering or maybe some critical questions to one another as part of the inquisitive attitude. And during the meetings and in between meetings, we work on research together. We distinguish two types of research: large-scale studies done by scientists and smaller-scale studies done by teachers. I'll get more into that in a few minutes. Well, not only the teachers are very enthusiastic about the Point Lab, also scientists are enthusiastic. And here you see Sven. Sven is one of our scientists, and he likes to tell you what's in it for scientists to join in this practical lab like ours.
Hello, I am Sven Matthijssen, and I'm the Vice Program Director of the Radboud International Training on High Ability. And I'm also the Editor-in-Chief for Journal Talent, which is a popular scientific journal about giftedness in the Netherlands. And I'm also a researcher within Point, and I'm very happy to be part of Point because it taught me so much. My background is psychology, so I learned from the books how it can go in education and what questions to ask if you want to research or study educational fields. And when I got involved in Point, I collaborated with teachers, and I noticed a lab setting or a research setting is in the classroom. And the questions I would want to see answered aren't always the questions that teachers have. So by collaborating, we came to questions we both wanted to see answered. And that is how the gap between science and practice can be closed. And we can merge the two worlds that shouldn't be separate worlds in the first place, but now that they are, we should start closing it again. And this collaboration is so fruitful and so insightful for the field of giftedness and also outside of that field. It really contributes to understanding the world better by collaborating together and by getting as close as we can get to the truth. So I hope that more researchers are willing and are encouraged to be part of a research lab such as Point and are willing to collaborate with people in the field in order to get as close to the truth as possible.
Yeah, great.
Thank
Great
you.
to see. And what is very nice to see in those years is the way that scientists in our labs become more practice-oriented and sensitive for what is really important in the field, in the educational field. Another advantage for the scientists is the possibility to collect data within the schools, because all schools are open for studies and data collection. And I will let you into the secret how this works. Over here you see our design of the large-scale studies. Each year, in each lab, a large-scale study is conducted. In most studies, more than 1,000 students participate. And sometimes we'll also have smaller studies, of course, dependent on the questions schools have, because that's where our adventure starts, in the schools. As you can see, the first step is asking the teachers what we can do for them by means of research. The teachers take this question back to their schools and consult the team, the school leader, and the administration. The next meeting, they come back with one or sometimes two or three topics, problems, or questions they would like to get more insights in. And that day, we exchange the topics the teachers come up with. The scientists can then reflect on these topics, sharing knowledge and studies that are already done in these fields and finding gaps in knowledge. And then we search for a joint theme or topic or problem that all schools can commit to for a large-scale study. Some of the topics that are not chosen, for example, because these were too context-specific for one particular school, can be used by the teachers for the small-scale studies. And then scientists propose a research question or a set of research questions. And when we all agree to this, scientists set up a design of the study, look for instruments, and so on. Most of the times, master students are involved in this process as well. They also experience working in the lab as inspiring showing them how science can help improving practice. And all steps in a study are exchanged with all participants. The scientists and master students conduct the studies, which are supported by the teachers. And in the last step, knowledge is shared with others, by all of us. Here you see the 3-year cycle for the teachers, because every teacher conducts his or her own research within their own schools. The teachers design their study in the first year, they conduct the study in the second year, and they share the findings by means of product development in the third year. In between our meetings, teachers and scientists or teacher educators meet in smaller groups for the supervision and support of the small-scale teacher research. Scientists and teacher educators visit the schools and support the teachers with their study. Knowledge development is something we do together. For example, you see them over there on the side, on the right side of the sheet. And also teacher education, so the education of our future teachers, is done together. One day a year, the teachers, scientists, and teacher educators share all their knowledge on educating gifted learners with the teacher students, our future teachers. And this is part of the teacher education curriculum, and more than 200 teacher students participate in this every year. And this brings us already to the second part about the practical application. Of course, we have a website. You can see over here for teachers, students, scientists, and parents. And there we share all kinds of products. For example, papers of our large-scale studies, which are open access. Also fact sheets or one-pagers, and these go together with the scientific papers. In one page, we share the main findings of our studies for a quick impression of the findings. So in a quick look, you see what's been studied and what's been found. Also, knowledge is shared by means of small knowledge clips of about 5 minutes. Teachers, scientists, teacher educators, and also practitioners share findings and good practices. And here I summarized the kind of activities we undertake in order to share the knowledge. And at this point, I would like to introduce Linda to you. Linda is one of our teachers, and she would like to share her experience in the Point Lab with you.
Hello, my name is Linda van Elderen and I'm a teacher researcher at the Educational Research Lab Point for 6 years now. My participation in Point has meant a lot to my practice and my own development. Because I'm constantly being fed with scientific insights, I'm able to look critically at my own actions and my own practice and make adjustments when necessary. The constant interaction between science and practice is very valuable to me. Through my participation in Point, I have discovered that I want to develop myself in doing practical research. I experience that it's very valuable to link my practical experience and the scientific knowledge I'm gaining in order to constantly improve my own teaching practice. I'm very happy that I have had the opportunity to participate in Point and would give every teacher this opportunity.
That's great. Linda is becoming a real teacher researcher, doing her own research in her own school. I already mentioned that not only the scientists do research, also teachers have their own studies. And in the third and last year of the cycle of our lab, we work on product development. Well, to be honest, some research themes keep coming back to us. They pop up every educational lab we start. For example, the theme of identification of gifted learners in the school. This keeps on coming back, and it makes you wonder why, because one can read about identification or about characteristics. There are models, there are theories concerning giftedness, but this isn't always effective to really involve people, spread knowledge or new tools, or to help people feel confident. And that is why we searched for another way to share our knowledge, to help teachers learn about identification of gifted learners. And I would like to conclude this presentation by showing you this knowledge sharing product. Here you see Enigma, a professionalization game. I have it up here. Let's grab it. Oh, one back. I hope you can see this in front of the camera. It's a real game box with tools in it, and it has one part on identification. And this game was developed by the point participants from the first field lab, and it's an interplay of science and practice. Everything in it is evidence-informed, and real cases of gifted students have been used, and these were written by the teachers. And within our multidisciplinary team, all different talents and knowledge of the team members have been used. All different parts. I'll skip this one to go into the next one, because here you see our teacher students playing the game. And as you can see, we made some kind of game night out of it with nice drinks and snacks, and they really liked it, but they also really learned a lot from it. And working in our field lab, from a close collaboration between scientists, teachers, and educators, is how we connect theory and practice. I hope you saw that everyone in our field lab can be him or herself, and that everyone's input is highly appreciated. We start from people's curiosity, because we are all curious and inquisitive, but in the Netherlands, in schools, so many standardized methods and materials in classes are used that we sometimes forget to be curious again. And in the field lab, all participants, the teachers, scientists, and teacher educators systematically explore reality. And it helps us bridging the gap between science and education and improving educational practice for all learners, including the gifted ones. Well, I hope this presentation inspired you even to start your own field lab. And if you would like to do so, please feel free to contact us. And now the floor is yours. We can go live to one of our educational labs, the field lab 040 in Eindhoven. Then I'll stop sharing so we can see the members of 040.
All members of Point 040 are in this meeting, so I think we can just wave so everyone can see that we're all here. So I would like to ask the participants of Point to wave to the camera.
Yeah, they did. I see some of them waving.
Great.
Yes, I would like to ask to you, Kim, Elise, and Kim, to look into the Padlet and give us a hand on questions, because you prepared who is willing and who has no anxiety to share here and reflect on the questions.
There are a lot of questions. Thank you all. We have already answered some questions. I will share my screen so we can look together to the Padlet. Yes, there it is.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have specific questions you would like to address and point out who could answer that?
And perhaps you can read the question before answering.
Mhm.
I'm looking for a question that's not answered. I see here the game. Is there going to be an online version of the game? This might enhance the possibilities to spread the results and knowledge that came from points. Unfortunately, there's not an online version of the game, but we do online workshops about the game, and that works very well.
Yes, and we would really love to develop this game in English or French or German, because we had different kinds of requests for that, but we're not into that right now. But that's one of our aims for the future. The next question, for example, for the scientists. What kind of impact are you aiming at? I saw there maybe our colleague Ellen would like to reflect on that one.
Yeah, sorry, you have to repeat the question because I couldn't hear it clearly.
Yes, one of the participants asked, what kind of impact would you aim on as being a scientist? And there are more questions specifically for the scientific, like the research approach.
Yeah, there were interesting questions that were asked, and about the impact, the question was about the sustainability of the impact. What do you aim for? And it's the sustainability means like it's a long-lasting impact on teachers. And then the question was, what kind of long-lasting impact are you aiming at? And then I answered it's a long-lasting impact on actually their practical knowledge or their know-how. So of the teachers who need to work with or are working with gifted students, but we also are impacting their skills in teaching gifted students in regular classrooms. That's a real struggle for most teachers, and we find that they develop skills in that sense. That was about the impact. And maybe I should say, so how sustainable is it? Very critical, good question. I think we didn't do any research about it yet. It might be interesting to have a more long-term or longitudinal study on this. But because we work together so strongly and are on a regular basis, we join and we come together. There's a high level of commitment of the teachers. They really feel committed to point to the lab. That's why I think it's also concerning their practical problems. So it's they feel ownership. Maybe that's the word I was looking for. And I think that if you have those ingredients in this lab, then it's a good thing. And then I expect to have long-lasting impact on teachers. But we're don't know it for sure. But soon, maybe you could ask our colleagues in 013. That's the lab in Tilburg, because they work in this lab for the longest period. But it's an interesting and good question.
Can we add a question to that? Because in normal practice-based research projects, you have also, because practice is different and sometimes difficult, you have also movement or dropout from teachers and schools. Did you experience that, and how did you deal with it? Or did you just discover that all teachers, schools, participants kept connected during all those years?
No, not all teachers kept stayed into the lab for the entire cycle of 3 years. In the first lab, we lost one of the teachers because she gave birth to twins, and that was quite an exciting adventure, but too much to continue point. So another teacher from her school joined. So there was continuation from the school. So that is what we agreed upon with the school leaders. It's possible that a teacher leaves the lab, but then they send or invite another teacher. And up till now, that never has been a problem yet. Also, 2 teachers from the other labs, labs, left because they got another job. They transferred from regular education to full-time gifted education because they were so inspired and they gained new skills that they got jobs in full-time gifted education. So I think that's good. That's okay. Yes, let's move on. Ellen, you wanted to reflect on the kind of research approaches we have in the lab.
Yeah, I could do that. Although I think that maybe Elise and Kim could also reflect on that a little, because the question was focused on the large-scale research we also carry out. And in that sense, that kind of research has a more, I would say, traditional experimental design usually. So with surveys, with a post-pretest design. But it's very different from the smaller scale studies the teachers carry out. They are more, as is mentioned here, participative research, action research, sometimes design-based research, but all they have in common that it's highly practical oriented, so practice-based research. And that also accounts for the large-scale research that's also practice-oriented. I don't know, Elise or Kim, maybe you could add something on this, or is it enough?
Yeah, maybe it's good to say we do qualitative as well as quantitative studies, and for us, it's important to use pupils' voice, for example. So in that case, we use open questionnaires or open instruments so they can tell or give their opinion, or so they can write it down. And well, that's a nice thing from the gifted students. We already have pupils from 5 years on and older because they can read and write already. So we have very young pupils in there, and we do not give them we do not only give them questionnaires, because of course we do use questionnaires, but also the open instruments. So it comes out of the pupils themselves. And I think that's an important element or asset, because we want to improve education, and we also do that by those kinds of measures, by asking, for example, one open question: what's a good teacher for you? What does he have to do? How should he be? And so on. And then we can learn from that and improve our practice, also for the teacher students. Shall we move on to next questions? Maybe some questions for the teachers, Elise.
I see here a question. Do you see opportunities for integration of the lab in the teacher education program? I don't know if it's already answered in the chat with the teachers.
And that's more for teacher educators, I suppose.
Okay, sorry.
And well, I can answer that question. For now, it's integrated in the curriculum. So the lab has 1 day a year in which all lab participants work in teacher education by giving them lectures, presentations, involve them in workshops. And in a smaller way, student teachers can participate as for their thesis, scriptie, and do research in the schools.
Thank you, Anouk. I see here a question for a teacher. Do you have enough time to do research? From when do you get the time? Well, during the point meetings, there is mostly 1 hour, 2 hours time to work on their research. And sometimes they use time during school or after school time to work on their research. But most teachers are really motivated to work on their research. It's nice to see.
Yeah, that's why we have those long meetings from entire days, so not only workshop from an afternoon or a morning, and those are planned during school days. So they don't have to do this outside of school time or in their own free time, because we don't think that's fair. So that's how we programmed it, that they will have enough time. And I must be honest, there are most of the teachers are in there, they invest more time than they get. Maybe one of the teachers would reflect on that. Zijn er leerkrachten, Elise, die in het Engels iets durven te zeggen? Dat zou fijn zijn.
I'll try.
Yeah, great, Gabrielle.
Well, I agree with what is said. We don't get time on our schools to work on the research, no extra time, but we like to do it because we learn from it, and we do I do a practical research, so my school is benefiting from that. So it's not a problem to make time for that. But it's for the meetings, sometimes it's hard to find colleagues to take the group instead of you, because we have personal problems at the moment. But most of the time, many people can join the meetings.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, in the Netherlands, we have to deal with a teacher shortage. But I heard in other countries as well, that's not a unique situation, but that makes it difficult for teachers to be with us the 8 days a year. And it almost proves the commitment and enthusiasm because they are there every meeting. So that's great. I saw in our chat app, maybe Sabrina, you would like to add something to this or give it a try?
Well, I can give it a try. Well, I work not at a school, but for the organization, and I have the luxury that every week I get some time to work on my onderzoek. How do you call it in English?
Your study. Yes.
Study. Thank you. And well, that's very nice because the study is we do a great study which participates 75 schools. So it's nice that we have the luxury to get every week some time to work on the study.
Great. Thank you, Sabrina. Are there more teachers who would like to add something to this discussion or to give some more insights to the participants over here? No, maybe not specifically. Are there any more questions or themes or just things you are wondering about you would like to have us reflect on? Because this is your chance.
I see a question in the chat on the EAPRIL platform. How do you ensure that your knowledge comes into the school when there's little time? That's a question for a teacher. Maybe someone wants to answer that, but I think we can answer something from point 2. We have a professional learning community for how do you call it, the school leaders, the principals, or the and by that we try to support the teachers in getting the research and the knowledge into the school, so that the school leaders are support them in doing that. So that's one thing we try to do, but it still is hard, I think, to get that knowledge into the team. Is there someone, one of the teachers who would like to add something, or maybe in the chat, and I will translate it?
Yeah, we learned from the first cycle of the educational lab that this really is, well, shall we call it a challenge? A challenge to get the knowledge and the results into the school teams, and more than that, to get all those colleagues on board, to say so. So in the next cycle, we added 2 instruments. One of them is the professional learning communities for the school directors, the school leaders, having them, well, giving them a bit more commitment to the lab and asking them to help the teacher researcher in the school to give them the floor in team meetings and so on. And we see this works because you do need a school leader for an even larger impact. And the other one, other instrument is that we have some workshops on learning and innovation for change management within the school. So arranging change within a team is quite a different kind of skill than doing research that asks for other actions, and we have 2 workshops in the lab program for teachers to helping them and giving them tools for in the school teams. Are there other questions in the chat or in the Padlet?
Yeah, and perhaps I can mention that if you raise your hands in Zoom, somebody can notice it and you can give the floor. And in addition, perhaps some of the awarding committee or the jury would like to ask something, feel free.
I saw within the Padlet many questions already have been answered by the coordinators, the teachers, and the scientists. So they have been working for us alongside. Maritza, would you like to ask a question?
Well, thank you for at first for your very interesting presentation and collaboration within this presentation. That makes it very clear how you work in practice. Maybe I missed it because my sound was a bit disturbed during the first part of your presentation, but is there a clear theoretical framework that is that grounds this idea of the lab and research on giftedness?
That's a very nice question. To be honest, when we started, there was not really. We used literature on professional learning communities, and those kinds of criteria were used and transferred to the way we designed our labs. But during the first 3 years, there were studies from research units who studied the 3 national labs, and we were one of the national labs for to study effects and what works and what doesn't work. And one of the findings from that study was that we needed, for example, the school leaders to be involved to realize more impact. So that's what we gained from the effect studies, and that it's very important to have a coordinator for each lab, who is available. So when teachers have questions, they want an answer right away, as soon as possible. There must be time. So that's what we used in the second and third lab, to have someone coordinating and writing the papers, doing the workshops, and lead the organization. Thank you. Does this answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah. If another region or another school wanted to adopt your project, what kind of a suggestion you would like to provide? What kind of aspects they may pay attention to it?
I think 2 aspects are very important. The first one is commitment. You need someone who is really thrilled for this idea and for the topic, because I've seen other educational labs who did not have specific topics. So a topic is a key to success, because with us, the gifted learners, I see all teachers are very committed to this group of students and to the topic of giftedness. So that's that helps more than just a lab on doing research in general. So that's a thing. The coordinator is a very important key person in a lab. And I think the three-party construction. So you have teachers in schools, teacher educators to improve the curriculum for the new learners, the new teachers, and the scientists for the scientific research. And that collaboration is very important. And the scientists must be practice oriented or practical sensitive, because if they only want to choose for topics they design themselves or studies they know from literature, then you don't get happy teachers, because scientists' questions are not teacher questions. I think those are the most important aspects, going together with giving them time. So don't ask teachers to do this in their free time, because that's not going to work.
Yeah, thank you. And then I have a follow-up question. In your community, there are scientists, teachers, teacher educators, and what about the students? Students are also in this community, right? And how do you, let's say, make students feel that they are also in this community?
Yes, we don't have many students in the community, so I'm honest about that. 1 or 2 in each lab. Well, because we work based on equality. So we are all valuable for the process. And for us, those are master students. Those master students are very, very valuable because they have the skills. They just studied research skills, for example, and they have something very valuable. They have time. So they can do our studies and help the teachers do the studies within the schools.
Okay.
Yes, that's the way, and they are there every meeting. So that's what I ask from the students. It's not just doing your thesis study over there, but you are really part of our team. And we invite them to all kinds of, doing the game board, for example, the serious games they do with us. They also get the game. They are just one of us. That's how we do that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there a last question? Somebody? If you didn't write it in the chat, or feel free to turn on your microphone. No last question. Then Anouk and colleagues, I really would like to thank you for this very inspiring presentation with a lot of variety, and also providing the insight of your projects. I can imagine that a lot of participants are interested to explore your model into different topics. For all who was here, thank you for listening, contributing, asking questions. And on Friday, during our closing session, the awarding committee will reflect on all contributions or proposals and these presentations. But you will hear from them more on Friday. Thank you all, and enjoy your day during this conference.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.